Hi, my name is Thomas Foster and that's another episode of Reason 12 for Beginners. In this video, I give you a quick and compact overview of all instruments in Reason 12. Good to have you here. Let's go! We open the browser here with this little button here on the left side, and then we go to Instruments, and the first thing we see is the Kong Drum Designer. We can load the Kong Drum Designer by moving it to the rack or with a simple double click. And after loading it, we see it here in the rack. We also see that there's a new track in our sequencer. And you can play the sounds, the drum samples and sounds with the pads here, with the mouse, or with your keyboard over MIDI. And you can load complete sets with sounds here with these buttons here, down tempo. Let's go to the next one, Pop Kit. Next one is Deep House. Okay. Beside loading complete sets, we can load sounds and create sounds on our own. You see the blue line here around this pad. This shows me that this snare here is selected. And now I can edit it here in this small window. I can pitch it, for example. I can change the decay time, make it short or long. I can change the level, the tone and the pan, but that's just the beginning. If you really want to deep in, you click this Show Drum and FX button here. And now you can load, for example, the synth snare. Here you can say the pitch. You can change the pitch, you can change the decay time. This is a synthesizer where you can create your own snare here with these knobs. And you also can automate them, so you can change your the sound of your drum in the song. That's pretty cool. So, but there's not just here a synth snare, there's also a synth for toms. There's a synth for a bass drum. Yeah, pretty cool. And there's also a physical snare, bass drum and tom. Let's take a look to this. Here we can change the pitch, the tune, the damp, the decay, and a lot of things more. But you also can load your own sound. I have here a sample of Mutant.com and I take the snare and place it on the same key. And exactly we see here the NN Nano Sampler, where our snare of Mutant is loaded. So this is also pretty cool. And now you can pitch it, change the amount for the pitch and do a lot of things more that you can do in a sampler, but we take a later look to the NN Nano Sampler. There are a lot more possibilities, but too much to show it in this video. So let's go to the next machine, and that's the ReDrum drum computer. We already saw this in an earlier movie. This is the old version basically, but you can load here just samples in the slots, and you can change the level, the length, the pitch and much more. But it's the simpler version of the drum machine. Next is the Dr. Octo Rex loop player. And like the name suggested, you can play loops with it. For example, these acoustic drums here. And you can change the loop by clicking on another of these 8 numbers, like the 5, the 8 and the 1. And it's very easy to bring them in your sequence, in your arrangement. Maybe you have to right-click here to create the pattern loop lane, but maybe you already have it, this pattern select line here. And now I can create here an empty pattern. Now I can double click it to change the loop. Why don't we start with loop 1 is cool. For 2 bars, then we make another pattern and go to 8. And after this pattern, we go here to 2. Let's listen to this. This is number 1. In 1 bar, we change to 8 and to 2. Wonderful. The great thing is that the tempo is always changing with your song tempo. So if we make it faster or slower, it's always with the beat of your song. And for sure, you can change the sounds here. If I click here, we have, for example, congas. And you have here a lot of loops, for example, also guitar loops. Let's load the electric guitar, maybe something like the chord strokes in minor. And let's load it here and listen to this. Or something with a little bit more rhythmic in it. So a lot of things you can do to find the perfect loop for your production. Let's continue with the Europe shape shifting synthesizer. We load it with a double click. Like in every instrument in the rack, we have here some presets that we can click and listen to. Or we can right click the Europe and say reset device to get a default preset that is good for a starting point if you want to program your own sound. We have here basically 3 oscillators. This is oscillator 1. Here you can turn them on or off. And the basic is a wavetable, and you can change the shape of the wavetable. And you can load a more complex wavetable. Why don't we use this transformer here? And for sure you can automize the shape, for example, by using an envelope. You have here 4 envelopes or an LFO. Let's check out the first envelope. So we say we want to use the first envelope to change the shape. Let's turn it on. Okay, let's change it a little bit. And we can load a preset in the envelope to make it more interesting. What's about this? Maybe a little bit too fast. All right. Here you have the typical thing like the amp. It's also an envelope, but it's for the volume. So you can say, I just want to bring down the sustain amp and go down with the decay time to make a short, more pluggish sound. Or you can turn on the attack to give it a fade in. Let's turn this off here. So every sound is coming slowly. Or you can turn on the release to have a longer sound when you left the key. You have here a filter. Here you can say that you want to hear the filter on oscillator 1, 2, or 3. And for sure you also can use an envelope for the filter. In this case it's the envelope 2. And here you have your effect rack. You can select the effects. You can click on them to change the order of them. And you can turn it on. The phaser, the distortion, the equalizer, the reverb, the delay, and the compressor. Let's continue with the Mimic Creative Sampler that comes new with the last update, Reason 12. I double click it. Immediately I have some sounds and I can switch here the presets. To play some interesting sounds. But the most important is the possibility to load your own sounds. So let's go to Reset Device. So everything is empty now. And I have here a sample I created. Let's listen to them. iLoveMutant.com. I play now the C3. iLoveMutant. We can create a start point. And we can create an end point like this. iLoveMutant.com. The more I play to the right, the more I play higher keys, the higher I hear the sample and the faster I hear the sample. So if I play one octave higher, the timing is doubled, the double time. And if I play it lower, it's the half tempo. That means if you play more samples at the same time, more keys at the same time, you have different tempis, so you can't create a choir. But for this we have different stretch modes, and for vocals, what shall I say, the vocal mode is great. Now, if I play two notes, iLoveMutant.com. How cool. iLoveMutant.com. And we can go to fixed pitch. Now everything is on one note, and now I can play nice chords. iLoveMutant.com. 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 Very nice effects. We also could go to mono legato, so now we can play melody. iLoveMutant.com. And we have other stretch modes, maybe for example granular, where you can make creative, nice things. iLoveMutant.com. iLoveMutant.com. Let's change here from the pitch mode to the slice mode. And now Reason tries to create slices, and for every key a different slice. So I play the C1. The first slice is on C1. Now we see that the We of Love is our own key. So I can delete this locator here. And also here. Let's delete this. All right. Maybe we should go again. Back from the granular to vocal. We have to erase this one. Maybe also this one. Exactly. The T of dot. And here's just the K. So let's make this one sample. iLoveMutant.com. That's a point where you can start to get creative to create some vocal chops. We have a filter. Let's listen to this. We have an envelope, so we can create very short samples. Or we can add a tag. And a lot of other possibilities, also an LFO where we can control other knobs. Here we have a reverse. Sometimes also very useful. The Mimic Creative Sampler is a very creative tool to have fun with your own samples. Let's take a look to the Grain Sample Manipulator. This is a special tool for granular synthesis. That's why you have this great sounding Atmos sounds here. I like this. But for better understanding, let's go to Reset Device. So everything is on default. And now let's put in our sample here. Mute, 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 I love mute, I love mute, I love mute, I love mute. All right. And now we go to, we have different modes. The most normal mode is the tape mode, but let's go to long grains. I love mute. And now let's go back with the speed. And now you hear what it's doing. There are small slices that are in a kind of loop. And how fast they loop, you can say here with the rate and the length. I love mute, I love. So that's a great tool to put in some of your own sounds and really have fun to create new Atmos sounds. Let's take a look to the Thor polyphonic synthesizer. First of all, we have some presets, and the Thor is good for old analog sounding synthesizer. But it's also a powerful tool if you want to create your own sound. For this, go simply to Reset Device. And now we click here on Show Programmer. Oof, wow, a lot of possibilities, but it's not so complicated. We have 3 oscillators, 1, 2, and 3. At the moment, just at the first one, something is loaded. And that's this analog oscillator that we can pitch and change the waveform. But we also can load a wavetable oscillator like the PBG synthesizer of the 80s, a phase modulation, FM like the DX7, a multi-oscillator where we can create really full and fat sounding things, and noise. So let's stay with the analog, and now we can use 3 different oscillators that we can activate here and change the volume here. So let's take a second wave and pitch it up 7 notes. All right. Okay, and number 3, we also take the analog and make it 1 octave lower. Now we have here a filter, resonance. We also have an envelope to control the filter. So if we use here a lot of the envelope, we can here say how much we open the filter with a tag. And we also for sure can have an envelope for the volume. And that's not the only filter. We have different types like the state variable filter or the comp filter, formant. And you can load 3 of these filters, 1, 2, 3. You also have some effects like the delay, the chorus, and a lot of more effects, but we also have a step sequencer. Let's go to repeat and run. Now we can change the notes. The velocity. The number of steps. The gate. So a lot of fun. Next is the Subtractor analog synthesizer, one of the oldest and simplest synthesizer of Reason 12. So, like in every other instrument, we can load here some nice presets that we can use, or we can go to Reset Device to program our own sound. We have 2 oscillators. Here's a filter. Let's turn up the filter and take a closer look to oscillator 1. We have different waveforms like this and a sine. And I think 32 more, yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's stay with this one. Let's add the second oscillator and tune it 7 notes up. Okay, we can change the mix between 1 and 2. So let's make 1 a little louder and let's add some noise. Yeah, maybe too much. Let's use the filter to go down a little bit. We have different filter types like 2 low pass filters, high pass, band pass and notch filter. Okay, let's use the envelope to control the filter here. So here it says filter envelope. If we give here some amount, we can change this slider here with the envelope. For sure we also have an envelope for the volume. I definitely like the how many possibilities you have to change the velocity. This is simply the volume of the sound, but you also can add some FM, less velocity, a lot of velocity. You can change the modulation envelope, the phase. We have 2 oscillators and we can control, for example, the pitch of oscillator 1 and 2. Or just oscillator 2. The frequency of the filter, how much FM we have, how much phase, or we can change, control the mix. And there's also a second oscillator. A very nice and simple tool to create your own synthesizer patches. Next on our list is the Malström grain table synthesizer. Basically, we have 2 oscillators and they both work with grain table synthesis. So let's listen to one of the oscillators. We can use here the motion slider to go slower or faster through the sample. As this is a little older synthesizer, I will not go too much in the details of this synthesizer. But let's listen to some presets. So there are a lot more instruments in Reason 12. That's enough reason to make another video. So don't miss the next video. Please subscribe to my channel to not miss the next video. And please write me in the comments how you like this video and if you have any questions to Reason 12. Thanks for watching. Always stay creative. Cheers. Oh, I still have one more thing. If you like producing music like me, then you probably know the problem of finding good drum and percussion sounds. Those who came with the music program do not sound right, and on all internet sites where you would get the really good stuff, you pay a fortune. On all? No, not really. There's a web page in whose development I'm involved. Mutant.com. Mutant is written with M-U-G-E-N-T and it comes from musically intelligent. Mutant. You can find drum beats that sounds exactly like what you hear in the charts or in the big clubs in Ibiza, Miami or Berlin. The webpage reminds a little bit of Google. You can just use the text search, get immediately results you can listen to and download for free, or you can use the menus with which you can narrow down the search. On Mutant you can find drum sounds to every genre, music loops, so complete beats, percussion single sounds and loops, cool bass riffs, funky brass and synth riffs, guitars, and all sorts of sound effects, from birds to cars, from the sound of the sea to helicopters. With me, there is no more production where I didn't use the sounds from Mutant.com. Take a look, you will love it. My name is Thomas Foster. Thanks for following. Always stay creative. Cheers.